Hello everyone and welcome to another game from basically round 2 of the quarterfinal match. Abdusattorov versus Magnus Carlsen of the Freestyle Chess Grand Slam Weissenhaus. Nodrbek lost the first game, and unlike Gukesh, he has the white pieces now in game 2, so it will be a little bit easier maybe for him to play. But it's very interesting. Magnus gave an interview regarding freestyle chess or chessnet 60 or Fischer random. How it gives you an opportunity to dive straight into the middle game starting from move 1, so you don't have to worry about openings, no preparations, no one of the reasons, for example, Kasparov will still play a chess 960 tournament, but he will not play regular chess, because even though he can still play at a very, very high level, he can no longer compete without opening theory. He just he did play that one tournament like a couple of years ago, and then he played the Najdorf, and everyone just obliterated him because there's new Najdorf knowledge that he does not possess. But if it's if pieces are scrambled, anything goes, and that's why these strong players like Fischer in his old age of 29 and Kasparov and Magnus prefer this style to regular chess, because you can enjoy chess without constantly having to improve on chess theory, and you can really compete. I mean, when you're over 30, you cannot compete with someone who's like 15. They can study 15 hours a day and soak up everything. You will not be able to compete with that theory wise, but you can compete when it comes to creativity or end game skill, or just general middle game stuff. So that's why I believe in top level chess, especially with these older guys like Magnus and everyone else. It is favorable. Plus, also you don't have to prepare for a big classical event for, like, I don't know, like for Tata Steel. I imagine Magnus would have to prepare for at least a week or maybe 2 weeks, to prepare some crazy opening theory to employ there. But yeah, okay. I wanted to mention that a little bit. But yeah, Nodrbek has to win. If he wins against Magnus, he goes into tiebreaks. If not, it is Magnus going into the semifinals of this very nice event. So let's see what happened here. Knight to b3, like Fabi played against Gukesh, but here Magnus does not reply in kind. He plays pawn to f6. So okay, the idea is pawn to e5, grabbing the center, and that is exactly what Nodrbek goes for. Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, and pawn to f3. We have knight to c6, pawn to c4, and knight to b6. So Magnus maybe even signaling a nice queenside castles here, but it all depends on what Nodrbek plays. We have d3, knight to a4, and pawn to d4. We have e captures on d4, knight captures, and queen to e5, putting pressure on the knight, and already we have some very interesting stuff here. Knight to c2, a5, queen to d2, and now pawn to f5, where Nodrbek does not capture, even though it's perfectly fine. He plays pawn to f4. He gives up a pawn to go for some active development and try and pressure Magnus's king. So queen captures, we have bishop to d3, queen to e6, and now knight d to e3, getting the knight into the game, and the knight obviously coming to d5 will be very, very strong there. So what can Magnus do? Magnus could defend his pawn with pawn to g6, but he does not. He gives the pawn back, brings the knight into the game. He has different plans for this game. Bishop captures on f5, attacks the queen. We have queen to f6, and now Nodrbek plays bishop to f2. It was much better to go for something like a castle's queenside here, but with bishop to f2, he runs into a most unfavorable move, and that is, I'm not going to tell you what it is. What do you think it is? If you haven't seen the game, like it's really a powerful move. What did Magnus play here? So here Magnus played bishop to e6, and it seems like a move that doesn't do all that much. Like, okay, it attacks the bishop, but we can either move the bishop or defend the bishop or capture this bishop. So why is this such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because if you capture on e6, Magnus will not recapture with the queen. Magnus will recapture with the pawn, and you might be thinking, okay, well, we defend f4 now, and what's the big deal here? Well, the big deal here is that you're playing this Fischer random chess, not regular chess. And in regular chess, when you have the white queen on the d file, your brain is not even considering the possibility that your opponent will castle queenside. But here, that's exactly what would happen, and here you resign. There's no move you can play. The queen has to move, you're going to give a nice check. The king has to go under the mask of the rook, and once you move the king, captures, attacks the queen, also comes with check, and this is resignation. So after bishop to e6, Nordrbek cannot trade. He has to go back. He plays bishop to d3, and now Magnus just picks up the pawn. Queen captures on f4, and he maintains this very, very strong position, being up a pawn. Okay, Nordrbek goes bishop to g3. He might, get something out of this. I mean, it's a very strong bishop. And Magnus could go, let's say, queen g5. He could trade on d3 with check, then go queen g5. He instead goes queen to f7, puts pressure on this long diagonal here, and Nordrbek castles queenside. And now Magnus also castled queenside, but I believe this is only due to the fact that Magnus already won game 1, and now he only needs a draw to win the match. Had Magnus tried playing this for the win, he would probably find pawn to b5. And if you see pawn to b5, and look at this, look at the knights, look at the rook, this is overwhelming. You might be thinking, well, so what's the problem? I mean, we can capture on b5. Yes, you can, but then bishop captures on a2, and you might even capture the knight here, but then knight b3 checkmate. So it's only one of the cool lines, but b5 here as a reply to Nordrbek's castle's queenside is extremely powerful. It is the top move recommended by the engine. I'm just, throwing it out there for you guys to enjoy. But okay, Magnus only needs a draw. He castles queenside, and now rook h to f1. We have knight captures on d3. Magnus trades down a little bit, and he offers a queen trade as he only needs a draw to win this match. We have captures, and now knight to d5. d6, and now rook d to e1, going after the bishop, and now Magnus just plays knight e5, goes after the c4 pawn, says, all right, I either have a beautiful knight on e5, or you capture, and then we just trade everything, and at the end of this line, I also capture the pawn on h2, and we're gonna play an endgame where I'm up a pawn, and I'm very happy with a draw, because that means I win the match. But on the other hand, there's nothing better for Nordrbek here. So he did trade everything. Magnus threw in this bishop captures on d5 first, c captures, pawn captures, rook captures on e5, and rook captures on h2. And now, okay, two rooks still in the game, bishop versus knight, Magnus up a pawn. It's a double g pawn, but yeah, Magnus only needs a draw. Knight e3 and bishop to c5. Magnus would not mind even trading the bishop for knight here. We have rook to f7. And rook to h5, offering a trade of rooks as well. We have rook to e6, and now bishop captures with check. Rook captures, and rook captures on d5. Rook captures on g7, and now rook to c5 with check. We have rook to c3, otherwise you would get checkmated. So rook captures, b captures, and now rook to d6, defending on g6. And Nordrbek would probably just, either resign here. Well, you would not resign here because you can very well fight this to a draw, but Nordrbek needs the win, so he has to start playing risky. And he's down a pawn in the rook endgame against Magnus. This is, if there was a tougher position where you would have to win against Magnus, I don't know, what would it be, unless it was, a straight out losing position. So, okay, pawn to a4, Magnus goes rook c6, goes after the pawn, king to c2. We have rook to c4 going after the pawn, and rook to g8 with check. We have a couple of repetitions here, king g7, king to d8, and now he has to go for the trade, otherwise he can just, leave the tournament. We have pawn to g4, Nordrbek does get his pass pawn, but so does Magnus. King to d7, we have king to d3, rook to f4, and now king to e3. Okay, another repetition, rook c4, king d3, and now I thought Magnus would repeat because he's satisfied with a draw, but no, now he wants to win. He plays pawn to b5, we have rook to a6, and pawn to a4. We have pawn to g5. Yes, you can push the pawn, but once the rook comes behind the pawn, there's really no advancing that pawn to victory. Pawn to c6, cutting off the rook here. We have g6, king to d6, and now pawn to g7, rook to g4, not waiting for rook to a8, of course, and now rook to a7. The pawn has to be defended. King to c5, we have rook to f7, and now rook to g3 with check. King c2, we have another repetition here. King d3, but Magnus pushes for the win. a3, rook to a7, and now rook to g3 with check. King to c2, king c4, and rook captures on a3. There's no other way to do it. Rook captures on g7, and rook to a6. Magnus goes rook to g2 with check. king to c1, and king captures on c3, rook captures on c6, and there's only one move that wins here for Magnus, but of course he finds it. No doubt you guys see it as well. It is king to b3, and he was in this position on move 55 that Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So yeah, you can see maybe only glimpses, maybe you can see the full picture of what Magnus had in mind when he said that you go straight into the middle game and you know, you just play chess, you just brawl it out. There's no swimming in the protected waters of theory. There's nothing to, you know, nothing to keep you safe. You just go out there and you can lose on move 1, you can lose on move 2, you can literally lose on move 1 if you play a silly move. And yeah, it's just a very, very different chess. And although there's not so much to analyze, you know, openings wise, at least for now, it is you know, it is pretty crazy. But yeah, here you resign. We can even show a nice win here. For example, you will advance the pawn to b4, and now you just push the pawn, you kick away the white king, and that's pretty much it. You kick away the white king, something like this, and at some point you will push b3, you will kick away the king, and white will give a check, and now you will sort of create a bridge for your king to cross on the c-file. And now if white wants to continue checking, for example via the back rank, you will now go rook to a8, and after, let's say, rook to h1 check, king to a2, you can pin it, but now king to a1, and that's it. This is one of the positions, for example, where white would have to resign. Or you go rook h1, the queen comes into the game, captures, and then the rook and king will checkmate the white king. So some of you might appreciate that. But yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nice victory by Magnus. He kicks Nodirbek out of the competition, proceeds into the semifinals, where he will face the winner of the match, Alireza versus Vincent. I'm not going to disclose who won, as I probably will cover that as well. And we already know that Fabi eliminated Gukesh, and he will face the winner of the match, Hikaru versus Javor Sindarov. Two of the classical games ended in a draw, and then, well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but someone won. And, of course, Fabi will meet the winner of that match. But yeah, I will cover one more game, and then I will disclose who is playing who. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Magnus, as usual, showing class in every step of the game, you know, except in the openings, as there aren't any here, but yeah, you know what I mean. I would like to thank Andreas Rosenthal, Andrei Schrade, David Bacon, Andrew Steinel, and Yuri Ralchenko for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.